Call this meeting to order. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next is invocation by River Tree Wesleyan. All right, not here, so we'll move on. Roll call.
Savers.
Here.
Goldhammer.
Here.
Dosher. McCardle.
Here.
Barrington.
Here.
Bathke.
Here.
Charks.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Okay, we're going to start with the approval of consent agenda items. I have one request to move item number 14 to the very end after executive session. If that's all right with you.
Just to be clear, you want to move, not in the consent agenda item.
Correct. Item 14.
Is being moved to the end of the agenda.
That's correct. Yes.
Move to approve consent agenda.
Motion by Mr. McCardle.
Second.
Second by Mr. Goldhammer. Further discussion? Anyone in the audience like to discuss this? Okay, roll call.
Dosher. Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Barrington.
Aye.
Bathke.
Aye.
Charks.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Savers.
Aye.
Goldhammer.
Aye.
Motion carries. Public comment. If you need to address the mayor and members of city council on an item that was not on the agenda, excluding personnel items, please come forward to the podium and state your name and your concern. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action will be taken at this time. Would anyone like to address the council?
Hello, my name is Jackson Ehlers. I'm the president of a club at Dakota Wesleyan called the Better South Dakota. Today, I have a proposal to recommend that the city of Mitchell consider adopting an official city flag. The city flag would serve as a symbol that represents the community and strengthens civic pride and promotes the unique identity of Mitchell. During meetings at our club of a Better South Dakota, members discussed ways to strengthen community identity and pride within Mitchell. One idea that was strongly supported in the creation of the adaptation of an official city flag. Many cities across the United States, including communities smaller than Mitchell, have adopted city flags as a way to represent the history and culture and local pride. For the community identity, a city flag creates a shared symbol that residents can recognize and rally around. When people think of Mitchell, many people picture the Corn Palace, which is a well-known landmark that represents the city. Our proposed flag design, one of our examples of a flag, incorporates and reflects on the unique symbol of Mitchell. An official city flag helps build pride among residents when displayed at schools, city buildings, local businesses, and community events. The city flag is a strong visual, and identities are easier to promote and market. A well-designed city flag could use to be as signage, merchandise, and promotional materials in the and on social media. Many cities smaller than us have adopted official city flags. This demonstrates that city flags are both practical and beneficial for communities of all sizes. In conclusion, an official city flag would provide Mitchell with a meaningful symbol that reflects its history, culture, and community pride. We believe that adopting a city flag would be a positive step toward strengthening the city's identity and promoting community unity. Thank you.
I have a question, sir. I like the idea. What's the next step?
We do have a design that we made, but either, like, obviously you guys talking about it, whatever I need to do to help out with it, or this is the
design that the student.
We'll start Joel's 3 minutes now. I was fortunate enough to be involved in one of these meetings, and they had there you go. That was one of the original that I saw.
Just a sample. It's not anything we're officially proposing. It's just a student created the other day.
Or having something where people in Mitchell, like kids, can design what they think should be the city flag.
Yeah. So I to answer your question, John, I talked to him. I said, you should probably they formed a committee, and I was there, and that was fun. So thanks for inviting me to that. And then I said, bring it to city council, and then you guys will probably have to bring a couple of different flags for ideas, and then you guys can take it from there. So this is step one. So thanks for doing that.
Thank you.
Yep.
And I have a few words I'd like to say.
Go ahead.
Yes, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Joel Allen. I'm the director of the McGovern Center here in Mitchell and professor at Dakota Wesleyan. And for many, many years, we've had what we call a Stark lectureship. And I go around every time we have a Stark lectureship. I'm always encouraging people to come. And if I've ever encouraged you to come, erase that from your mind, because this is the one you should come to. The one that we're doing this year is incredible. I heard this guy speak at a conference in New York State recently, and the guy just was astounding. He's a Holocaust scholar. He's a very devout Roman Catholic. He's a product of Catholic schools, but has also discovered in Western culture ways that hatred of Jews even is imprinted on our architecture. And it is such an interesting topic. I told him to do the same thing here. So I'm going to pass out flyers, and if you want to put them up around town or
When is
whatever. It's April 9, and he'll be speaking 2 times. He'll be speaking at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, in our chapel in the Sherman Center, and then again at 7. If you want to meet him, he'll be at a meet and greet in the Tiger Cafe at 3 o'clock. So very excited to bring him to town. When I heard him, my wife turned to me. We were both hearing him, and she said to me, "We have got to get this guy to Wesleyan." And so here we are. We've got him. We're bringing him to Wesleyan. So I really hope you're able to come out. So any questions? Sure.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Elizabeth with Mitchell Mainstream Beyond City Council, Mayor Hanson. We just got done with Wingapalooza from last month. Numbers are looking good. We're just wrapping up a few more numbers, and we will announce the 2026 Wingapalooza Hot Wing Champion and Best Non-Hot Wing Champion also, because we know some people don't like to sweat when they eat. So that's very exciting. And then we roll right into May, which is going to be the Dessert Rumble. So we have more food restaurant rumbles coming in the near future. Restaurant and retail opportunities coming up this month include the Ladies' Day Out, which is April 18th. Very excited to see that. We usually see over 36 businesses. We're looking at 40 this year, so it just continues to grow and support our small retail. There's always something going on in Mitchell, whether it's Mitchell Mainstream Beyond or other nonprofits or other organizations. I encourage everyone in Mitchell to get out and find something they love to do, because there's so much happening, especially as we come into spring. Thank you all for approving our special event permits that came through here. That is very exciting. Excited for this next year. Parade of Lights date is set. Oktoberfest is done. First Fridays kicks off, and Memorial Weekend in Mitchell is a huge mashup this year. So we look forward to a successful 2026, and thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Mayor, Councilman. I'm Karen Cooley from the Food Pantry. I was here about a month ago. Here I am again to report on our ham dinner giveaway that we had on April 1st. We gave away 217 meals. Each household received a ham, a gallon of milk, 10 pounds of potatoes, and a 20-pound box of groceries that had 2 pounds of fresh carrots, 2 pounds of fresh apples, 2 pounds of fresh onions, 2 cans of green beans, either dinner rolls or a loaf of bread, butter, margarine, eggs, package of cookies, mac and cheese. They had pinto beans and a recipe so they could make ham and bean soup. Of the 217 households that got it, 105 were seniors, 310 adults, and 202 kids, for 617 people that got an Easter dinner. The value of this meal, if purchased locally, would be $63.87, which is a bit higher than it was last year. Most of the people came from Mitchell, but there were also some from Emory, Ethan, Forestburg, Fulton, Freeman, Mount Vernon, Parkston, Plankton, Salem, Stickney, and Storla. 44 volunteers donated 103 hours just to get this job done on the day that we had it. And I was most impressed with my volunteers because the rain started when we started and it ended when we ended. And we were all wet and everybody stuck it out. So they were good.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Karen, thank you so much for the work you do. It's no coincidence that you are our person of the year. So congratulations on that, and thanks again.
Would anyone else like to address the council? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on. Hearing and action on the application of the Crown and Culinary Company LLC doing business as Greenwood for a special event liquor license located at the Green Room, 623 South Sanborn Boulevard for April 17th for a birthday party.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Starks.
Second.
Second by Mr. Severs. Further discussion? Anyone in the audience like to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 9, update on Lake Mitchell Improvement Project. Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council, we have Connor Kelly, a professional engineer with us from Houston Engineering. He is a water resources engineer, and he worked on the report that was approved for Houston, and he's going to give an update on his findings and where we're at.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you to the council for making time to hear about the update of this project. I know this project is important to Mitchell, not maybe in itself, but in the sense of what it needs to accomplish before many other efforts and projects regarding Lake Mitchell can to continue that effort forwards. So just a little bit of background on what originally precipitated, I'll call it precipitated, like precipitation, precipitated this study. There were a few things, and it all kind of came together in the last few years. The first and most important thing that was driving the need for a revised PMF, 50% PMF study and an emergency preparedness plan update was under South Dakota laws. That's a requirement of dam owners, high hazard dam owners like Lake Mitchell, to have these plans in place. And over the last few years, there's been notes from the dam inspectors where they've identified that some of that information was needing update to conform with the standards of practice today. So from the state level, that was one forcing factor that said that this study really needed to happen. And then more recently, there was some work that was planned on the lake, and there was some modification to the spillway that was being considered. And that just put it on the radar of state regulators, even more in the forefront, because anything that's going to modify a dam starts to raise attention to, what are all the other paperwork pieces that need to be in place so that the dam can be permitted properly and that everything can be up to the best standard. So looking back, the previous studies that were being used to describe how Lake Mitchell performs from a standpoint of how it performs against this 50% of probable maximum flood was information that was over 20 years old from 1995, and then information before that was even older from the 70s. And there's been quite a bit that's changed in the realm of how these type of analyses are done, and then how the regulations apply to those analyses. So this was just a good opportunity to bring all of that information together and update it all at once. And that really is what Houston Engineering was hired to do by the city, was to look at that 50% of PMF performance of the dam as a state requirement, and then also to update that emergency preparedness plan. Then as we got into doing that work, we kind of quickly identified that there may be some hurdles in showing that the lake may not meet those state standards for being able to pass the 50% of PMF. And it was at that time we started to develop the right analysis that would be able to get all the different approvals that it would need to get at the state level to be able to show that the dam is still going to be in good condition, It just takes a little bit of an extra look at all of the different inputs that go into assessing the risk of the structure if it were to be loaded by one of these really, really extreme events. So the updates that Houston went through included looking at updated soils data, updated elevation data, land cover across the Firesteel Creek watershed, which spans 3 counties, and then using all of that updated land cover information to apply new modern rainfall standards, which is then implemented in a 2-dimensional rain on grid model, which is something that is a standard of practice in hydrology and hydraulic modeling of large watersheds like Firesteel Creek. And it is, in a sense, taking it a little bit further and taking a look at it uniquely for Lake Mitchell Dam in a way that's a little bit more detailed in some ways than what FEMA might do for floodplain mapping. So I want to distinguish that this is a different study than floodplain mapping. It's really catered specifically for understanding how this dam performs. Other inputs that went into that was some USGS gauge information on Firesteel Creek. There's 70 years of record on that gauge, which is a really valuable data point and was instrumental in calibrating our analysis. And in fact, it allowed us to bring flow rates down a little bit by leveraging that data. That actually showed that the dam is able to perform a little bit better than if we weren't able to leverage that gauge data. So that was a really valuable part of the analysis. Once all of that hydrology was completed, we were able to look at the Lake Mitchell spillway, which is unique. I'm sure many in this room have seen it, when it's flowing, and it does have a unique hydraulic characteristic. It's called a horseshoe OG Weir chute spillway, and there's not many of them across the country. And this one in itself is a unique example of one. But in being able to assess how that spillway performs, there's no textbook that describes this one exactly. The engineers in the 1940s that designed it did a decent job. They were close, but using modern tools today, we were able to take a little bit better look at it using what's called computational fluid dynamics, which is a really robust way to physically look at how the physics of water flowing through that spillway lead to the performance that it has. And most critically, identifying how that spillway performs when it's being tested at its greatest threshold, when water's right at the top of dam, which no one's ever seen yet. So we needed to have some good information to be able to predict how that could perform underneath that loading condition. Once all of that information was brought together, we were able to look at how the dam would perform under the 50% of PMF conditions, with waters routing through the spillway and then carrying on down Firesteel Creek into the James River. Something interesting about the large amount of flow that would happen during an event like that is flows would actually go both ways on the James River. They'd go south, downstream, and they would also flow north upstream for quite some distance, more than 10 miles upstream, if that event ever did happen. But then one extra threshold that is looked at for dams is looking at how evacuation response would take place if the structure were to have an unlikely failure condition, and evacuations needed to take place. We're able to look at the breach that would exit the reservoir and then create the necessary maps so emergency managers can have those on hand should that unlikely event ever occur. And that is really the foundation of updating that emergency preparedness plan, which is in progress. So here's just a few photos, and there's some nice drone footage a resident was able to collect that shows what that spillway looks like under normal, high flow operating conditions. And then this is a rendering of the results of that computational fluid dynamics modeling, where you can see that central kind of jump, the rooster tail jump, really shows up well in the model. And then on the other side of the screen, you can see what it would look like when flows are at the top of dam, and from that we're able to get the data that we needed to know how the dam would perform under that condition. And this just shows how those two things layer on top of each other. When we, here I think the picture really tells the story that the analysis matches, almost photorealistically what was seen out there. So it gives us a lot of confidence that the results are good and can be trusted.
Can we ask questions as we go along?
Of course.
So can you go back to that picture? So is one of the things that you're looking at is, because we've had some epic rainfalls in the last 10 years. So my question is, are you looking at how quickly the rain is falling, or how, so that it makes it so that it's coming faster than usual? Or can you tell us kind of what that is?
Sure.
Looking at, do you understand my question?
Yeah, your question's exactly right. A big part of looking at how intense the flood event is a factor of the rainfall intensity, and a 12-hour slow soaking rain that drops 4 inches of rain isn't going to create nearly the rapid rate of rise you'd see on the reservoir if you had 4 inches in 1 hour. And part of what we do when we create the probable maximum flood is we use real creative naming, the probable maximum precipitation, which is just the rainfall side of that analysis that was applied to this reservoir using data out of a study completed for the state of Nebraska. And that data extended across state lines up to Mitchell. So there was data available. Otherwise, the state of South Dakota doesn't have a study like that, and we'd have to rely on information from the 50s, which is not as modern and doesn't capture modern climate considerations. So there's a data set that we use that describes some very extreme peak rainfall intensities that are used, and they're very intense. It's something like 26 inches of rain in 6 hours. So it's something that you don't expect to see occur, but it physically can occur, and that is the design standard for high hazard dams. So, what does this study do? I wanted to share this because I've seen others, talk about studies, and sometimes it's hard to, as a non-engineer, know what each different piece of paper is actually used for. And the study that's been completed, we are calling it the Lake Mitchell Inflow Design Flood Study or Update Study. It gives us updated watershed hydrology for the purpose of assessing the inflow design flood to Lake Mitchell, which is a dam design input. It also looks at dam hydraulics through the spillway. It updates the breach maps, which are used in the emergency preparedness plan. And it gives us a better picture of what the present risk is today downstream of that reservoir, given its normal operation and the unlikely conditions that would result if the structure were to fail. And then all of that comes together, after we did an we call it an incremental consequence analysis, which is the important part of the study that is going to allow the city of Mitchell to pursue a request for a variance from the hydrologic design criteria of the state, which say that a high hazard dam like Lake Mitchell should pass the 50% of PMF without overtopping. However, this dam we found doesn't pass that. But by taking an assessment or taking a look at the design criteria with risk-based considerations from this, I'll get to it on the next slide, but from this method, you're able to show that making the dam reach that criteria wouldn't necessarily lower the risk for anyone. It would just be an expenditure of of resources to bring the structure to the same level of performance that it performs at now, as far as from a consequence perspective. This study doesn't update FEMA maps. It doesn't change the hazard class. It doesn't change anything to do with the Lake Mitchell Dam structure physically, or the lake project, the dredging design project, or any other appurtenances of that project. And it doesn't do anything to change the actual risk downstream from the structure. It just gives us a picture of what risk lays there today. And it also doesn't change any standards that the state standards that are required for the dam. So the real conclusion from the study, and I hinted at it already, is that the spillway doesn't pass the 50% of PMF without overtopping the dam. It is able to pass up to the 23% of PMF, so roughly half of that design standard is where Lake Mitchell is falling, and that really doesn't mean a lot when you say what's the 23% of PMF, but it is still a very, very rare and unlikely event in itself, something that would be less than the 1,000-year in terms of how frequently it could occur. So picture, the rainfalls that fell partially in the city of Mitchell back in 2024, but it was even worse over towards Sioux Falls and Sioux Cities. Something like that on Lake Mitchell is probably still not quite getting to the level that you would be looking at with a 23% of PMF. And then the final step of all of that analysis was, like I said earlier, doing that risk-based assessment, which involved following guidance out of a FEMA document, P94, Guidelines for Dam Safety. And that's a federal guidance standard for performing what's called the incremental consequence analysis. And I'll kind of point at the screen up. I guess you can't really see it. You can't really see it on a white screen, but essentially what you see is asymptotically the risk downstream of if you left the dam how it is versus if you made the improvement. Your consequence of keeping the dam how it is versus improving it is so close together that you can technically justify that an expenditure of resources to update the dam to a higher standard isn't going to yield any improvements in terms of reducing potential risk to life due to the unlikely failure of the structure. And the next steps are well underway. I know there's been some news shared from the mayor, and there's been some news stories I've seen myself talking about, the request for variance and the public comment period, and as those statutory requirements are stepped through, there will then be a hearing next month in Pierre to take this variance through the state board that looks at these petitions and then approves them, and then after that, then there'd be some qualifying requirements to keep the emergency preparedness plan up to date going forward. And that is all I've got, but I certainly can take any other questions.
So to make that simple, you're basically saying the results of the study were not bad.
There's a pathway to addressing. Yeah, they were not bad.
Good, perfect. There we go.
So these, the rest of these steps that we're waiting for, what's the timeline on those?
The public comment period, I believe, it has started or is starting very soon. In May, there's a hearing scheduled.
Okay.
I believe that's in early May, unless it gets delayed for some reason based off of.
It's May 6th, I think, right, Joe?
Correct.
Yep.
And is that hearing in front of the DNR board, or is there a committee? Or
There is a board. It is the Water and Natural Resources Board.
Yep. Water Rights Program.
okay, and have they seen this study?
The state chief engineer has seen the study and recommended approval of it. though then the board looks at it and makes their own decision, though they heavily rely on the chief engineer's opinion.
Okay, thank you.
And I've asked Joe to reach out to Bar and start the process again, so we're not missing any time in between. So as soon as this does hopefully get approved, then we just keep moving along.
So, Joe, if you had a crystal ball, when can you see us starting with lowering the water level?
I would say we would definitely be on schedule with a fall drawdown if everything goes according to plan.
Are you talking a full drawdown, Joe?
Yeah, we would be back on track of where we were last year. Correct.
All the design work is done for the drawdown structure, I think, right?
So permitting needs to be finished through the Army Corps.
Mm-hmm.
Once that's wrapped up, then we would be ready to bid for the drawdown project.
Right. Okay. Any more questions?
So when would we be, best case scenario, when would you be bidding the drawdown?
After the lake seasons, we're looking at September, October.
So I know that before this all happened, we were in the middle of permitting. I mean, are we able to carry over the progress that we had made? Are we starting from scratch?
Nope. We basically suspended the permitting. We stopped where we were, and we should be able to pick up from where we left off.
And so there's no possibility of starting a bidding process prior to the lake season being over?
We could discuss that, and we could get if it's county's or the council's intention, we could proceed as aggressively as possible. But to me, with where we're at and the approval, there would definitely need to be a discussion of whether we wait or proceed midsummer if we could.
Okay. Any more questions for this gentleman? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, public hearing on proposed resolution of necessity for sidewalk construction or construction of sidewalk on North Olman Street. Mr. Schrader. Oh, just kidding. Mr. Johnson.
Mayor and council and guests. Now is the long-awaited time we've waited to do a public hearing on the North Olman Sidewalk project. What I'm going to do is just kind of explain the project, how we got here, and explain some of the general terms of how we will go through the assessment process, and then I will open it up to the neighborhood that we've sent invites out and give them a chance to speak about the project and about the assessment process. So we've been looking forward to this project for a long time. Looking at ways, right now it's a rural section roadway, and looking at ways that we could create it into an urban section, which means curb and gutter, sidewalks, giving basically the vehicles a safer place to drive. We have a lot of walkers, people on bicycles and runners run along the edge of the road, and it's not a safe transportation network. So we want to make that better. So we've been looking at it for several years. And for the last couple of years, I think the council has felt that this is a need. So last year at budget time, we budgeted to let's make this project happen. So council went forward with putting together, set money aside. We've been designing for about a year. And next Tuesday, we will be going to bid out this project. Project's estimated at $5.7 million. It'll come out of general fund, loans, and also enterprise funds, water, sewer funds. The assessment portion of that is $140,000. So roughly $5.56 million will be city funds, then 140,000 of that would be part of the sidewalk assessment. If this goes through, we would build the project this summer. All the property owners that are affected would get final collection notice bills next fall. And then 30 days after that hearing, we would have a public hearing at that time. 30 days after that hearing, they would have 30 days to pay for their portion for basically no interest. If they decide to just let it go on their taxes, it'll be basically on their tax rolls for 5 years, and it'll come out of the first half of their taxes for those 5 years at 8% interest. So that's the process we would follow if we proceed with this assessment. Other things are we will be watching this project from the time it starts to the time it ends. If any property owners have any concerns or comments, they could reach out to us. We have reached out before we sent out the assessment letters. We reached out to basically all the people affected and had one-on-one meetings at SPN talking about drainage concerns, what modifications we'll be doing in your yard because we're going to lower the road about 1.5 feet, which means we're going to be filling in the ditch, we're going to be modifying the side yards, and we're going to have to redo driveways in order to meet that new grade. The only cost that the property owners would be responsible for is for the sidewalk portion. So on the east side of the road, we're building a 8-foot wide sidewalk. Property owners are responsible for only 5 feet. The city's paying for the additional 3 feet. And then on the west side, between Country Drive and basically Kemper, where the apartments are, our proposal is to just put in 5-foot sidewalk to connect the existing sidewalk that's on Country Drive and extend it up to basically connect to the apartments. A majority of the people that we talked to came in. We had those one-on-one meetings, and everything went pretty good. They had some discussions, concerns that they might have, and we answered those concerns. We continue to connect and talk to those people. The other thing I wanted to bring up is on the bike trail. The bike trail will connect existing bike trails in that area. So we currently have a bike trail that runs on 23rd Avenue from basically Minnesota all the way to the railroad tracks to the west. And this bike trail would connect to that one, and it would continue the bike trail going all the way north, basically to the lake. Currently, the bike trail ends at Kemper and Ullman, so that would connect this bike trail to that one. And you can see it on the screen right there, where on the east side of the road, that would be a new bike trail that would connect Kemper on Ullman to the existing bike trail that goes around the golf course. And it would also connect the bike trail on Cemetery Road, taken along the railroad tracks all the way to the lake. So this is a good connecting route that will connect bike trails all in that area. So
The dashed line is
a
all
gravel
new.
trail.
Is the gravel trail. Okay.
Yeah.
The only thing I would like to add is that the Parks Department will be removing the snow from that 8-foot wide trail. The 8-foot wide bike path.
So the people on the east side won't have to clean the bike trail sidewalk at all. That's along Ullman. They'll just have to clean the sidewalk that's on the connecting side streets going through there. Okay, so with that, we will go into the two different segments that are on the resolution for public comment, and then we will get into the actual resolution. So the first segment is from 2300 to 2800 block of North Ullman Street, just on the east side. That will be considered as a bike trail or a 8-foot wide sidewalk. The property owners would only be responsible for 5 foot of that 8 foot, and then the city would pay for the other 3. So with that, I will open it up to people that want to come up. Please state your name and your address and your comments concerning the east side of the sidewalk.
Would anyone like to come up and speak?
My name is Derek Gross. I'm at 1527 Pebble Beach Road, right on that corner there. I wanted to kind of talk about the history of these bike trails that are getting added. It looked like the original ones were paid for with grant money. Is that correct? I could not find any records of this. It looked like 2010 was assessed, and that's kind of what this decision was based on. And I can't remember. I didn't write down which parts of these trails throughout town were added at what points in time, but it looked like originally the whole plan was to do this with, extra grant money or funds that we had.
Maybe Joe knows the answer.
So I'm not 100% sure on the history, but I do know the bike path going along the railroad tracks was in the county that the city chose to do. I'm not sure how it was paid for. The other bike paths located on city property were obviously paid for by the city. What I would compare this project to is the sidewalk that we did on Raleigh and Norway, from Burr to Raleigh and from Norway to Cabela Drive. That sidewalk was assessed 5 feet to those property owners. And that's the best comparison that I can find for how we've done this in the past and to how we're doing it now.
Okay, yeah, that sounds right. That's like I said, I didn't know where that was, but I remember looking up where various ones were built. So I guess my biggest concern, and I brought this up when we were talking about the roundabout when that got approved, is just pedestrian traffic. Like I don't know how many people are going to use it right there, or they're planning on locating it on this east side of the road. I've tried to walk roundabouts, and we were recently on vacation in Arizona where they just roundabouts everywhere, and anywhere the traffic is bad, it is not fun to cross those. You got to look every direction. I'm not sure how safe that's going to be. I mean, if I were walking, I guess I might come up. Let's see, what road is that? Let's see, Pebble Beach. Yeah, probably just, honestly, I would probably just cut across Pebble Beach and just kind of cut around and avoid that entire area. And if I'm going further, I might go, up Thunderbird. I would prefer to walk there than, to come across and hit that intersection with that roundabout. That's kind of my main argument is just, pedestrian traffic wise, I'm not going to prefer it. Something I thought of is I wonder if you could just, designate a bike lane on those roads, basically, instead of building this, extra concrete there. Basically just, I think a lot of cities, they just kind of paint a lane, basically on the right side of the road on each side, if that's possible to do instead of this. But that was my thoughts.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Would anyone else like to address the council?
All right. Yep, go ahead.
Quick question. The sidewalk, bike path on the east side of Oman will be curb and guttered, correct? And will there be, between the curb and the sidewalk, will be any boulevard kind of thing?
There'll be a grass strip in between the curb and the bike trail.
Okay, and how wide will that be?
I think it's
7.5 feet.
Oh, quite a ways.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
It'll be wider than what it is to the north. We made the road a little bit narrower just so we could have a little bit more boulevard room. So it works better. There'll be more snow stacking in that boulevard, and it'll work just like a regular residential street.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, this street will be set up for 3-way or 2-way traffic with a chicken lane at some point. Initially, we will just have a 2-lane road until the third lane is justified for traffic volumes.
So we basically won't have, there'll be no parking on Ullman Street just because you're only going to have the 3 lanes. All right, next stretch we will go into segment 2. which will be the west side of Omen. It would only be from Country Drive to the north end of the apartments on the west side of the road, basically at Kemper. We're connecting, the idea of this would be connecting the sidewalks that are on Country Drive and having a sidewalk on the west side that would connect to the apartments. So that stretch is open to public comment. So if you want to come up and comment in that area, you're go ahead and welcome.
My name's Tanner Music, part owner of Music Properties, and I guess that whole stretch would be my responsibility. But I don't see any reason why to have a sidewalk that goes nowhere north, goes nowhere south. I mean, I understand a lot of places in Mitchell, you want it where houses are, but in this instance, going north or south, it would just be a dead end. So I highly recommend not, just because it has nowhere to go and has no real meaning.
Thank you.
Yeah, so there's existing sidewalk on Country Drive right now. So we would basically start right here, right there, and go to the north end, up to the north end of the apartments. I think we have a plan sheet. Do you have that, Stephanie?
I do if you don't.
Okay. We got a plan sheet that kind of shows that area. So here's the area in Country Drive. The area in purple is the area that we would propose, and then sidewalk running in front of the apartments. And then it would just go to the north end where the driveway is. So all the apartments could have a sidewalk that would connect, and then you could have crossings that would get you over the bike lane. So with that, is there any other public comment? If not, we'll just go right into the resolution. So this is the council's time to ask more questions. And what I would suggest is having a motion on each segment.
Segment 1 and segment 2?
Yeah. And you could do them separate. So are there any questions about segment 1 on the bike trail on the east side of Ullman?
Any questions on the east side?
Move to approve segment 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer, second by Mrs. Sharks. Further discussion? Any other questions?
Joe, on that spot or that stretch that you talked about on the south side of town, that was any of that in county, or is that all in the city?
That was all in the city. There was some right of way through the interstate that we dealt with, but all of that was in the city.
Okay, and that was also an 8-foot, of which it was divided out.
We had an 8-foot and a 10-foot. Which only 5 of that was assessed to the property owner, and then the city picked up the remainder. So 3 foot on the 8-foot and 5 foot on the 10-foot.
Okay, and we did that, was it within the last 2 years, wasn't it?
Yeah, I want to say 2023 we wrapped it up, probably, if my memory serves me correct.
Okay. And typical sidewalk in Mitchell is it always 5 feet?
Yeah.
Unless it is curbside, we require 7, but our boulevard sidewalk is 5 feet wide. Yes.
Okay. So we got a motion second. Anything else? Anyone else in the audience want to say anything at this point? Okay. All those in favor of segment 1, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries on segment 1. So segment 2.
Okay, so this will be on the west side of the road. Proposals from Country Drive that we looked at, tying in the existing sidewalk on Country Drive, all the way up to the north side of the apartments to tie in with that existing driveway that goes into the apartments.
Terry, if we had more places like where sidewalk is in town where it stops in each end of his property.
I mean, we have it all throughout town where people build a new house, and you got to start somewhere, and then we connect them. We connect it through.
What, Terry, what was the rationale for requiring or asking for a sidewalk there? I mean, as I look at the map, if I live in one of the apartments and I wanted to go visit a neighbor, I would walk through the parking lot. Especially considering that there's a sidewalk and bike path right across the street, and you said there will be crossing to get from the apartments over to the bike path / sidewalk on the other side of the street. And a sidewalk that doesn't go anywhere at this time doesn't seem to make sense, a whole lot of sense to me. What's the rationale?
The only thing that I would suggest is if we were to do something, if we had to modify it in any way, I would mainly do the Country Drive sidewalk, because you got the end of the sidewalk at that driveway, and then for them to get to the bike trail, they're going to have to walk in the street and cross Ullman Street to get to the bike trail. If we were to split it up, I would be fine with just doing Country Drive, and then at a later time we could do the apartments. If you felt that the apartments to the north don't seem reasonable.
Yeah, and kind of to follow up to Councilman Dosher's question, the rationale was that curb is being added and those apartments are within city limits. So per ordinance, we're required to show sidewalk at that location.
This brings me back to about 4 months ago when we allowed a couple property owners not to do this exact thing. So why are we going to try and tell this guy he needs to do it?
Part of my thought here is that on the south side of that property where the sidewalk jutes out, we should have a sidewalk going south.
That's a drainage area.
That's a drainage area.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind. I was thinking if we could figure out a way to connect sidewalk that way.
I mean, my original idea was to put sidewalk on Country and all in front of the apartments. That way we're providing a safe place for people to walk out of their apartment. They could walk down that sidewalk. They could walk down Country Drive, and if they wanted to, they could cross over and get on the bike trail. But I get it. It doesn't extend farther north, but that was my original idea.
I would kind of think too, if it, once it starts developing to the north farther, when there's something to connect to, that'd be the time to connect it, would be it, I think, because I'm with John. People aren't going to walk out. They're probably going to go out the back door if they're going to go somewhere, because that's what, that's where they've done it all the time. But the sidewalk, it doesn't, if you're going to go get some exercise and walk up and down the sidewalk you're not going to get a lot of exercise walking up and down that sidewalk, because it's not going to go anywhere. I don't think.
Well, one of the things that I remember when we were talking about Fiala is the fact that it butted up against county, which happens a lot. And we had the homeowner, we asked the question is, if that ever is developed, then would you be willing to put the sidewalk in? And I guess maybe I'll ask the same question to the current owner. We've got basically county on the north and county on the south. At some point it may be developed, but may not. But if it ever is and brought into the city, I guess that's when I would like to see if there would be any commitment at all of putting that in. And putting you on the spot, but I don't know if you want to respond at all or not to that, Tanner, but that's what we did with a request that came up a few months ago.
Yeah, I'd be willing to look into it if I decided to develop that to the south.
I want to just so we're clear, the west side of Fiala, I believe, is all in the city. Right? It's only the east side is part county.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So I've talked to Joe a little bit about it. You know, if I would decide to develop it to the south down to 23rd Street, you know, I could understand that. I mean, I could probably work with the city to do that in the future. But going north, I mean, that's kind of my farm, my house. I mean, I'm not going to change that going forward. But going to the south, if I would decide to develop it, I could see going back and talking about it. I'd have no problem with that.
I feel like the way I remember we did Fialo's, Jeff asked to put in the minutes that if they ever did abut it, that's part of the reason for waiving this at that time. So that's, I'm guessing, what you're asking for this time. Yeah. So what he's asking for is if you do develop in the bottom, you're kind of saying, yeah, I'll do it at that time. Are you willing to do that?
Well, that's the whole thing is do you say you develop way on the north side, then do you, or the south side, do you put a sidewalk just in front of there and then leave that whole place? It's kind of like the whole piece would almost have to be kind of developed before we could even really talk about it. I mean, I'm saying, yes, I would be interested if I developed that whole area. Yes, I would put a sidewalk in there for you, but I'm not going to do one little piece here every time I develop a small piece, do a sidewalk, is the way I'm looking at it.
Mike, the black lines would be city limits.
So, Joe, are we doing an elevation change on the west side of the road from 23rd up to Kemper?
Yeah, we're lowering it all, but
So will it be like prepped for grass and then someday it would be just stripped off and the elevation would be done?
yeah. We told basically SPN to design it, and we're telling the contractor to blade it as if there was going to be sidewalk there at some point.
Okay. Anything else? If not, I'm looking for a motion.
Tanner, how do you feel about us just doing Country Drive? Would you be willing to do that?
You mean from the sidewalk going out to the road?
What Terry is suggesting. Yes.
Yeah, I would be able to do that. So I have no problem.
Then I was going to just make that motion that's what we do. But do you have something else you want to say?
We can't connect to the other apartment because of the drainage ditch.
Right.
That's not going to change elevations. The one that Tim, I think, proposed.
No, so the project is being designed so that drainage basically flows into the street, whereas now it flows into the ditch. So it would have been designed so that a sidewalk could be placed. I do believe there is a drain being installed. Correct. There's a drain being installed on the backside to catch water from that. So it wouldn't have flown over the sidewalk or as bad. So it'd catch the winter freeze thaw water. And regardless if there's a sidewalk installed there or not, we would still put that drain in.
I think you're talking about the cement portion.
From right here,
They're there.
from this sidewalk, go to the road. From this sidewalk, go to the road. That's what we're talking
Yep.
I think Tim was bringing up.
Yeah, that's not a sidewalk.
This is only like 3 foot. That's just a small drain.
It's like a valley gutter.
Valley gutter.
Yep.
I think Tim was trying to get people from your other complex to these other things. Right now, they'll have to go across grass.
I love
drainage
Go to the
ditch.
driveway the way they are now.
Driveways they are now, yeah.
Jeff McCormick, this man. Our design won't change whether you do the sidewalk or not. We've got it designed to plan where it's going to be at for the drainage to come over the top of the sidewalk or grass, whatever it is. If there's an area we could not get it to go over where a future or current sidewalk would go, we brought an inlet back behind it, which is maybe at that one valley gutter that comes out there between the two of them. So our design won't change whether or not the sidewalk is going in or not.
So let me rephrase my motion, and it would be that we do the Country Drive and then add the caveat that if you ever decide to develop to the south, that you would proceed with sidewalks at that point.
All the way to 23rd.
All the way to 23rd.
Well, that's a big, yeah. I mean, there's a 60 acres, you know, I mean, like I said, I'm not going to develop one piece and then put a piece of sidewalk and develop another.
So you don't think that if you developed it, you would develop it in a connecting fashion?
Yeah, to the street and everything like that, yeah.
Uh-huh. I mean, I think that we're just trying to make this into the best possible scenario. One of the things that we always worry about is actually kind of the opposite of the way you're looking at it. The thing we worry about is exactly what you're talking about, is having piecemeal pieces of sidewalk. So that's why we would like to see it go. If you develop to the south, have it be that you would add those sidewalks that would be connecting, so that we don't have those hazard spots in between where it's disconnected.
Or in other words, Tanner, to have to go all the way to 23rd to require the sidewalk.
I mean, if I develop it all the way to 23rd, I would be okay with it.
Okay, I'll second that motion.
Jeff, if I can, the property that you're talking about that would be affected by that isn't part of the hearing process. So I can understand making a note in the minutes and stuff about that, but I would not include that in the motion because it's outside the scope of the proposed project.
So the motion is to do the Country Drive part to the east to catch the Ullman bike path. And we're just going to make a note in the minutes, but not part of the motion. Then you stand by that. Okay. And we got a good second. Okay. Any further discussion from the council on this? Guess we can open it back up to the audience again.
Question. So you guys are changing how that's going to work? You're changing how that second section is going to be laid out there?
Just on the west side.
Yes. Yes.
That is correct.
Okay. So can we take what's budgeted for that and apply it to us on the other side?
Ooh, that's a great question, but I don't think that's. I guess that's up to these guys. Yeah.
Because I think when we first talked about this at that roundabout meeting, I mean, there was a little bit of back and forth, but this is basically what we talked about doing is, at first they talked about having it fully paid for, and then it was back and forth a little bit, and this is where this came up based on history. So,
and Joe, I could be mistaken, but he would have been paying or assessed for all of the sidewalk, not a portion of it, correct? So there's not a budget for
that. Would have been just sidewalk, not bike path.
The bike path is only located on the east side of the road. That's the only place where the city's contributions are.
So we wouldn't have been paying it for any
3 foot on that side.
Correct.
There's nothing to free up.
Yep, that's right. Yes. Okay. Anyone else in the audience? Okay. Then all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Action to approve special event permit application for Switchyard Social on Saturday, June 6, 2026. Special event liquor license with consumption permit, $200 fee.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. McCardle.
Second.
Second by Mr. Goldhammer. Further discussion?
This is listed on the regular agenda because it's a new request for the city. I'm trying to get to the right page here. You'll see it's down by the depot parking lot, and staff did not have any concerns with the request.
It's going up. Okay. Okay. Any further questions? Anyone in the audience like to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve a request for no parking in the 600 block of North Hunter. Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council. Marius Larson with the Vera Queen of Peace has requested that no parking be designated on the south half of the 600 block of North Hunter Street, as shown on the screen. The request is prompted for the need to improve first responder response and pedestrian safety due to the location of parking lots, accesses, and crosswalks. I can answer any questions you have.
Thank you.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer. Second by Mr. Bethke. Further discussion? Anyone in the audience like to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action award bid for ice arena roof replacement project 2025-24. Mr. Schrader.
All right, Mr. Mayor, Council. Bids were opened on March 31st in City Hall Council Chambers at 10 a.m. One bid was received by Van Buskirk Construction, LLC, for a lump sum bid of $1,668,000. Nicholas Coomer with Design Art Group has reviewed the bid and recommends awarding the project to Van Buskirk. for the lump sum amount. This project will give the ice arena roof a 20-year warranty. The original project budget was $1,250,000. Currently, the total project cost is at $1,752,000. We are requesting an additional $170,000 for contingency. Above and beyond that, staff is recommending awarding the project to Van Busker Construction. This time, I'd like to note that this project is more than just a roof replacement. There are remediations being done to the shared wall between. They're fixing some fire barrier issues, along with they're not completely separated. There's a draft that goes through the two. We currently do not have a warranty for the roof. This will add a warranty for the roof. This is also increasing our insulation values for the roof. We're going with a different type of system to alleviate condensation between the roof and the insulation, which has been an issue in the past. And with that, I'll open up to any questions. I do believe Nicholas Coomer with Design Arc is here for any specific design questions. So I will open it up to council.
Hi, Nick with Design Arc. Sorry.
Do you want to start with anything before we ask questions?
Not sure what to start with.
Okay.
This won't help at any, like for summertime use to create ice there for the summer.
No,
Can
there
we-
was a previous report by Shimmer that indicated that this current building does not meet the envelope requirements, and then the equipment inside also are not adequately sized for that. But I can kind of give a brief overview to kind of get everyone up to speed. So Design Arc was tasked with discovering and identifying ways to repair the roof, being that there are leaks throughout the north and south rink. There was also some repairs done, I believe, a couple of years ago to add a wedge between the roofs to move the transition away from where the step in the roofs were originally designed. And that did not alleviate the problems, made another cavity for moisture to collect in. What we were tasked with at that time is to identify if there were any other issues outside of that. We hired KVS Engineering, the structural engineer, to assess the frames to figure out what else we could do with the buildings, being that they are PMB, pre-engineered metal buildings. They are a little proprietary to the companies that built them. So there are only so many limits that we could take with our structural engineer to modify them. With that, our structural engineer discovered that both frames are designed to a category 2 level hazard, which limits the occupant loads on each one of the two sides to under 300 occupants. With this that Joe was pointing to, with this new engineer that we have brought on, they would be engineering it towards a level 3 category only on the south portion and not the north portion, to allow us to grow the occupant load for future events and additions if ever need be. So this project is above and beyond just repairing the roof. It's also giving us a foot into what we may want to do with it in the future. With that, the north roof and frame is undersized enough to our engineer has recommended that we cannot do any additional weight to it. So there's no modification that we can really do outside of replacing 1-for-1 on the north portion. With the fire separation wall between the two, we can keep that use separated from the south and adjust the south frame and reevaluate it to a category 3. With that, in that report, we've identified that there's condensation issues. We reviewed with multiple insulating companies about how to treat that roof and that cavity between them, and they recommended at that time having 2 vapor barriers, one above and below the insulating cavity, to allow for moisture to escape, because they know they're going to have a hard time controlling it, being that in the events that they will be using it or starting ice, there's going to be fluctuations in temperatures of 6 degrees from outside to inside. And then that they also identify that the interior of these buildings react similar to pools. They have a high amount of humidity,
there's no way to really keep that moisture out of there. They just need to find a way to get rid of it when it does accumulate. So one of the design decisions made during, I think, week 3 leading up to the bid letting was that we went to a rigid insulation system on the low roof to avoid any cavity buildup for moisture to collect in. So that did increase our estimate at that time. We did not have a good idea what that was going to do to affect the bid. And then working with our PMB consultant with Butler Engineering, we have found that there are multiple areas of this connection that was not done appropriately to allow for a warranty. So we were working with them to identify and re-engineer a new flashing type between the buildings to allow a continuous warranty for 20 years after the construction.
20 years, you said.
20 years.
How old is that building? Al, do we know?
The north one is older, yeah.
Yeah.
The north one was built in the early 90s, I think, or
Yeah, I think it was 96, 97. somewhere.
yeah, 96, yeah, mid 90s.
Yep.
And the other one was 2013.
And we believe at that time that that building was more of a practice facility. So that would be why it was engineered to a level 2 category for hazard, so under 300 occupants. The south portion was also considered more of a practice facility too. So it was never intended at that time to be over 300. But in discussions with some of the hockey committees, I know that they have aspirations to have larger events such as state hockey in them. So we'd like to continue to develop that building in a way that allows that expansion.
I feel like the biggest struggle we came up with was you cannot add any weight to the roof at all.
Only the south portion, which we did modify and added that rigid insulation to. But we are held to existing building codes in those situations, and an existing building code would not work on that north portion for us to add any weight and modify. So, but with the steeper roof pitches, a lot of the moisture getting into the building from the envelope was not happening there. It was happening at the transition. So, and with that additional wedge that was added there was some deflection in the purlins on the roof, making flat spots on the roof because there's a very low pitch on that low roof. So you can see where there's collection of dust and debris where there was realistically just puddles sitting up against the seams. And that's because of the snow slumping off of the higher pitch roof, sitting on the low roof in an area that was not reinforced for that snow slump because it was pushed out.
So will you be removing that transition point?
We'll be adding it back in appropriately. So,
Are you talking about the wedge? Is that
yes,
what you're asking for?
Yep.
The wedge would be gone, right?
Yeah, we cannot keep that wedge. No.
So are we going to still have the 2 steps, or is it going to be one slope?
It will be a step. It is recommended by Butler Engineering, the one providing the warranty.
Yeah, this design is what gets us the 20-year warranty for the roof.
Because it's a completely different, not drip edge, what's the word I'm looking for? Expansion joint, right?
Right. So between the frames, our structural engineer identified that there is potentially 4 inches of play between the buildings at that joint. The joint that they are recommending and engineering towards this is a fully submergible joint, meaning it can be completely underwater and no moisture will get through it.
So you said they're going to do the double vapor barrier to eliminate that water coming through. So how are they going to get rid of that condensation between the vapor barrier and the metal to where it's not leaking through again?
We can't do it on the north portion where we were not running into that as often. The south portion, we're going to an RCO system, which is a rigid insulation. So there's closed cell, there's no cavity for moisture collection.
So when you say rigid, is it like foam board or it's just
Yeah, it's foam. It's
Okay.
like it gets us an R30.
Right.
So Joe, with the changes that you guys have just kind of explained and the scope of the project kind of increased from budget hearing, which would be a safe thing to say, one bidder. So, and I know you're making a recommendation to accept, but do you think it would have made much difference if there was more than one bidder? And I know you can't totally answer this,
Yep.
but the question is do you think with the project now the scope went up to, is this worth the money?
So the timeline made it tough for other bidders. It was a fine line between how we operate the facility and time on versus getting the project done. This contractor can get it done within that time period. We did talk about the potential to reject and rebid for a next year timeline. That still doesn't necessarily adjust the time frame that you need to get the work done in and when the facility is going to be used. But we do think that, with the uptick of material costs, that it potentially could just be a wash or cost more.
Right. And also maybe design standards could go up as well, right?
Right. So every year they are reassessed and they increase. That is if we do not use existing building code to reevaluate the frames. But what it comes down to is that it was a public bidding opportunity. There were 3 companies with immobilization rates near Mitchell that could potentially build with the Butler system. And the 2 out of Sioux Falls were not able to meet the timeline because of work already lined up. But they kept a competitive bid situation for the local installer to know that they were on notice, essentially, that it had to be competitive. They would have all received the same bid package from Butler Engineering. So, I'm sorry, but yeah, we do believe that you would have had a variance in the bids if there were 3 of them, obviously. We do know that it's a competitive bidding situation right now because there's a lot of hungry contractors out there. So we know this number is probably likely not going to be any better next year. So.
Hey, Nick, Chief Sandoval, real quick. Will you touch base on occupant load real quick?
Certainly. So this occupant load that I'm discussing with you is structural, meaning that it's a design criteria set forth by our structural engineer based on the hazard level of the building. The building right now is more of set as like a non-extensive public use, so like a business more than a public event space. We identified the future, and what is currently being used is more of a assembly space. So we need to redesign it or reevaluate it towards assembly, and having a structural stamp indicating that is required. So we did that with only the south portion. The north portion would have to stay the same because it would not meet design criteria.
And so, Nick, you mentioned the possibility of hosting bigger events on the south side, and that's because of the amount of bleachers you could put in, or
correct.
Why would you make that? How could you make that comment?
I would make that comment based on currently they are exceeding 300 occupants in there, and right now they are put on special fire watch in those events because they do not meet the requirements in building code. So
events on the north side greater than 300 people would require us to notify emergency services saying, hey, we're having an event. We're going to be over the threshold of 300 and we're putting you on watch for this event.
Right. It takes special permissions from the city to allow that.
So, Joe, I know you weren't here in 2013, I think. So were we having an issue with the first arena with condensation?
Stephanie could probably answer that better than I could.
If not, what changed that we do now? Is it more moisture?
The issue is between them. The north one, I was under the impression from the report that it's not as of an issue on the north arena because there's more volume and air in that area. Right?
Because of the taller ceiling.
Right. Right.
So we know we know there's roof leaks on the north roof. The south was more of a condensation issue or the leaks coming down in through the roof and migrating into the new building. It was one of the two.
And my experience has been only since the second sheet of ice was already here. So I couldn't differentiate between the two.
Well, I like Councilman Smith. I have a little heartburn over this, adding all this money to it. But I had a discussion with Mayor Hansen today about it. And you know, you re-roof your house every 30 years. It's just a bummer. This house is rather large and expensive. I'll move to approve it, but it's with a lot of heartburn because that's a lot of money for it. And I've been in the building. I've been on the roof with Joe and the mayor, and I don't see any leaks. I personally think it's condensation, and I think a lot of it is condensation. And whether it's the wrong product was applied the first time or not, I know they're going to guarantee the roof. Are they going to guarantee no condensation?
There was no mechanical improvements made in this project, so we know from the report that there is condensation issues still.
But if we use this special insulation on the newest part, are we going to be guaranteed we're not going to have condensation?
No.
What can we do to get that? Is it airflow?
There's a big report that we have to fix it. It's a
Huge,
tremendous
yeah.
amount of stuff. We did some of it though, right?
Yeah, we did some of the improvements. There was HVAC recommendations as well as envelope concerns that they found, and this was actually a company out of Minnesota that did that study for us.
Right.
I'm trying to think of some of the stuff they said, but it's
We added
you
some
basically ripped
automatic
everything.
controls and something with the fan that improved the circulation, but I know we didn't do everything on the list.
Yeah, that report basically says the building envelope and construction is not conducive to handle it.
Right.
And I want to say on the south side with the insulation we're using, it's not the same type where you're going to poke a hole in it and there's going to be water that pours out.
Right.
Yeah.
There's also going to be a metal backing on the bottom side, so it's impact resistant and rigid insulation with no moisture collection at all. There's a detail that was on that page as well that I can walk through if you need.
And I guess just for additional discussion for council, we've went round and around on this, whether you do replacement of the roof or I can't remember what the estimate of a new facility was, like 17 million for one sheet of ice.
Yeah.
And that puts the roof cost maybe in more perspective. It is delayed maintenance or deferred maintenance, and we have other deferred maintenance in the building we know we're going to have to take care of. We know the glycol system is at 30 years.
The original glycol on the
And
north
they're
side.
only supposed to go 10.
That's what the warranty is. Yep.
So we know that that's going to be coming up for a replacement. Kind of anticipated as we were going through the design that the costs were likely going to come in over budget, which later on in the agenda you have your supplemental budget appropriations. I had already held off on many of the requests that Park and Rec made, knowing that they were probably going to need that cash for this project. I did go forward and make additional reductions so that if council chooses to move forward with this, you can fund it without additional contribution from the general fund. It just requires you to put money toward the storm shelter where the Park and Rec was going to cover that 100%. So it ends up costing about $100,000 from the general fund. The rest comes out of Park and Rec fund. But again, not recommending one way or another. That's your guys' decision to make. I just wanted you to know that we identified the way to fund it if you choose to move forward. And I guess sticker shock for everyone, but in comparison to because we talked even about a brand new facility with the envelope concerns and the other issues, but $2 million versus $17 million is quite a difference too.
Yeah, I mean, thanks to Design Arc and Nick for doing it because we had him look at everything. Rubber roof, just new, I mean, everything, recoding it. He even drove designs for a new rink to the west, which is, we just explored literally every single option.
So as I agree with Jeff and Mike, I believe this is a very expensive step, but it's a step that we need to do to get to the next step, which obviously will probably be air quality. But so I'll second Mike's motion.
So we got a motion with heartburn in a second. Okay. Further discussion?
I don't know if you guys have any pictures, but I seen some pictures from somebody show me. Just so we talk about the damage that's being done now. You can see where it's ready rod attached to the building and it's all rusting out. I mean, I just feel like we don't do it, we're going to have a very, very large expense coming.
Right.
Yeah, I remember Jeremy Nelson gave me a tour of the facility and the number of breaches that there were in that's on the north side. The number of leaks that we had coming through that roof. I couldn't even believe that we didn't have that fixed. So I think it's time and it's something we need to do.
It has gotten better from where it was, but it's not resolved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the new barriers that we are indicating in this on the north rink will have a more reflective property to it, so it will alleviate some of the taxing on the equipment.
Right.
And not be impenetrable, but more resistant to a hockey puck as well.
So it's new insulation throughout the whole facility.
Yep.
On the roof,
It's-
I should say.
What's benefit on the north rink is that it's all going to be above purlin work. The south rink takes a little bit more because there's some demo.
Oh, and as far as I guess the condensation thing you asked about is there's a big air leak in between the north and the south side, and that's going to get fixed in this as well, right?
We have at least in the barrier because it's required. We found
Right.
that there's air volume coming through the barrier wall, which we need fire blocking in to actually be a barrier.
Yep.
So it'll help at that point. I do not know if there is some behind it. That is part of the contingency, is to evaluate that when it is demoed.
Okay. Anything else from council before we open it up to the audience? Okay, anyone in the audience like to discuss this? Let's do a roll call then.
Barrington.
Aye.
Bathke.
Aye.
Charts.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Sabers.
Aye.
Goldammer.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle.
Okay, perfect. Action to award miscellaneous concrete project 2026-04, Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council. Bids were opened on March 18th in City Hall Council Chambers at 1:30. 4 bids were received, with the low bid being from Rex Winkle Concrete. Bid Schedule A, $49,809. Bid Schedule B, $63,212.50. The bid tabulation is attached for your information. Bid Schedule A is for our miscellaneous curb and concrete areas, and Bid Schedule B is for our overlay streets, curb, and concrete repairs. And with that, staff recommends awarding bid schedules A and B to Rex Winkle Concrete. I can answer any questions you have.
Smith, second by Mr. Petsky. Further discussion? Anyone in the audience like to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to award bid for Randall Rural Water Meter Vault Project 2026-07, Mr. Schrader.
Mr. Mayor, Council, bids were open on March 18th in City Hall Council Chambers at 1:30. One bid was received by Dakota Pump LLC for a lump sum bid of $400,160. Matt Erickson, a professional engineer with AE2S, has reviewed the bid and recommends awarding the project to Dakota Pump. Staff recommends awarding the project to Dakota Pump LLC, an Impel company, as well. And I can answer any questions you have.
Thank you.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer. Second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to award bid for Rock Chip Supply Project 2026-10, Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council, this is for our chip seal projects. Bids were open on March 12th at 1:30 in City Hall Council Chambers. 2 bids were received, with the low bid being from Mitchell Corey. Their unit price was $19.25 for a total price of $50,050. The bid tabulation is attached for your information. Staff recommends awarding the bid to Mitchell Corey. I can answer any questions you may have.
Motion by Mr. Sabers.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bethke. Further discussion? Anyone in the audience like to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to award bid for petroleum products 2026-13, Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council. Bids were open on March 12th at 1:30 in City Hall Council Chambers. But one bid was received by Jebro for both items. Total cost of $265,507.20 for our rock oil, and then $80,871.84 for our fog seal, with the combined cost of $346,379.04. Staff does recommend approving the bid to Jebro. This project came slightly in over, but we had a cost savings of roughly $9,900 on our rock chips. So overall, we are under budget, and I can answer any questions you have.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Jerks, second by Mr. Goldhammer. Further discussion? Anyone in the audience like to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to award bid for paving and overlay project 2026-15. Mr. Schrader.
Yes, Mr. Mayor Council. Bids were opened on March 31st in City Hall Council Chambers at 1:30. One bid was received by Commercial Asphalt. Bid Schedule A for our paving and overlay was $520,322. And bid Schedule B, which we pick up at the plant for our patching, was $73 per ton. The bid tabulation is attached, which shows our previous year's pricing. This year's pricing was less than last year. Staff does recommend awarding bid schedules A and B to Commercial Asphalt, and I can answer any questions you have.
Move to approve.
Sorry, I didn't have my mic on. Further discussion? Anyone in the audience like to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve Agreement A 2026-29 Professional Design Agreement for the Corn Palace Plaza Expansion. Ms. Selwyn.
We're going to give Joe a break from talking for a minute.
Here we go.
Mayor and council, enclosed in your packet is a copy of the design agreement between the City of Mitchell Confluence, and that would provide architectural and engineering services for the expansion of the Corn Palace Plaza to the south of the existing plaza. The proposed project includes the expanded entry plaza, new shade features, synthetic turf with possible contouring, playground features as an alternative based on fundraising, signage, and expanded green space with a total budget of $750,000. This agreement would cover design phase services as well as construction, document development, bidding, and contract negotiation phase, and construction administration services. The total fees for all of those phases would be $124,050. And again, it would include all design and engineering costs all the way through construction. A couple questions I've received in the interim. Will the city get to see the final proposed project? Because originally we were looking at a $1.6 million project. Yes, that would come back before we go out for bids. Obviously, if council decided not to move forward with bids at that phase, then we would just not continue with the construction phase services in the agreement. And I can answer any other questions you have. I think that's the two I got.
Thank you.
I'll move to approve. Second.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion?
Stephanie, what is the accommodations for future storage? What is that?
That was something that Dave requested. We probably will not have funding to incorporate that, but they wanted to, back in that green area where the two evergreens were shown, have some way to store materials that could be used by, I keep wanting to say Habitat for Humanity. That's not right. The Arts Council, to do activities and stuff back there. If we were able to secure funding, then we would add that in as part of the package.
And then I thought they originally had a water feature. No.
We would not have the budget at $750 to do a water feature.
Perfect.
Unless we had fundraising that said the only thing I want to give to is a water feature.
Okay. Good motion second. Further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this?
I guess one other comment I should have made during my introduction. Dave and I have been actively seeking grants and sponsorships. We have had some pretty positive conversations. We do anticipate at least something coming back to council in the future. We just aren't at a point to release any of that yet. And I have to also thank Main Street and the Convention and Visitors Bureau that's been helping with that process as well.
Okay. All right. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve Resolution R 2026-13, plot of Tract 8-5 in Lot 1A, Block C of Westview Edition. Mr. Jenigas.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Planning Commission recommended approval of this unanimously. They'd like to replat two tracts that were right next to each other. They're building a building across that lot line, so that line will now be vacated into one lot, so that way they can build their structure. Can answer any questions that you have.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer. Second by Mr. Bethke. Further discussion? Anyone in the audience like to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve resolution R 2026-14 as shown on the agenda. Mr. Jenigas.
Mr. Mayor and Council, Planning Commission recommended approval of this unanimously. This is outside city limits, but still within the ETJ, so it's our zoning jurisdiction. The county will still have to hear this at their next meetings. This is the last step in the process for them. They recently rezoned a portion of this, the south part, into urban development so that they could match the north part. So that lot line that is between the two of them right now, that yellow line will go away so that they have one parcel again, and they'll be able to claim ag with the assessor's office. Can answer any questions that you have.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Starks, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anyone in the audience like to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve resolution R 2026-15 as shown on the agenda. Mr. Jenigas.
Mr. Mayor and Council, Planning Commission recommended approval of this unanimously. A portion of this is outside city limits, so therefore it'll have to go in front of the county as well, but it's in the ETJ. It's our zoning jurisdiction. We're going to treat these as H lots because they will go into right of way. So that way we don't need to require any variances for the smaller lots and what your zoning would be required for it. You do notice that there's only 3 corners of it. If this project does get approved all the way, it'll be an easement that'll be on the southwest corner with that existing landowner there. But I can answer any questions that you have for me.
And just to make sure that the public is aware that there will not be any damage done to the lift station that was put in last summer, that we're not going to have to move that, or
I'll let Joe answer that question.
You are correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
Joe, another question. Where we had the old lift station right across the street, we initially, before we started talking about this particular project of possibly selling that lot for a house. Now that we've got this in place, I'm assuming that's probably not feasible. Or is that something we could look at in the future?
I think it's something that could be discussed. You know, a second option I've heard talked about is, improving it so it's a trailhead.
Yep.
So there's a parking area for people
so
to hop on the trails.
Because there's a lot of people that park bikes there right now,
Yep.
and or vehicles so they can take their bikes out of town.
Yep.
So some type of alternative use we're looking at to improve the area out
Yep.
there instead of just having a plain empty lot.
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
So
I don't have one yet.
move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer, second by Mr. Smith. Further discussion? Anyone in the audience like to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve resolution R 2026-16, annexation of lot 4 of Singapore slab and the rest as shown in the agenda. Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr. Mayor Council, JTZ Properties LLC has petitioned to annex the property, legally described as shown on the agenda. It's located on North Harmon, adjacent to the lake, north of the new senior living center that is being constructed. So I can answer any questions you have.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sabers. Further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. First reading on ordinance O 2026-04, a supplemental appropriation ordinance for fiscal year 2026. Ms. Elwine.
Mayor and council, the information I'm going to go through tonight is also included on the agenda. It would be the first attachment that says supplemental appropriation budget final, in case anyone's following along at home. Just a couple things that I would like to go through. First of all, this first slide is going to show you the type of supplements that are included in the 2026 supplemental budget appropriation. The total supplements are $56.8 million that I am recommending. Of those, 94% or $53.4 million are projects that we started in 2025 that we're carrying forward to 2026. In addition, 4% of those supplements are due to cost increases after the budget was adopted. That's just about $2.6 million. That does include the one you just talked about, the ice arena roof, correct? It does, yes. And then the new budget request is about 1.4% or just under $1 million. And then we have maintenance items at 0.1%, which is 58,000. And then we did have one item that was cut from the budget that was requested to be added back in for $8,750. This next graph just shows the supplements by fund. By far, the biggest one is Lake Mitchell, and that is basically, we started with a $25 million project. That's the project less what we've spent in the design fees. So we're carrying the balance forward. The next ones you can see utilities. Those are going to be a large portion of the total cost as well. And those are the large projects that we've been working on carrying forward. I do have a detail on these moving forward, but you can see each of the totals by fund. In the general fund, the largest project that we're carrying forward from last year is a storm drainage project. You can see there's $2.1 million worth of supplements. In the general fund, 3.7 million of the total 4.4 million are for infrastructure projects, so that are being moved from 25 to 26. That would be your storm drainage, street and sidewalk, and traffic for the most part. Enterprise funds are showing up on the chart now. The utility department supplements are for projects that are being moved from 25 to 26, and they do represent the majority of the enterprise department supplements. So you've got the wastewater treatment budget, wastewater collection, water distribution, water treatment, and then sanitation. The campground, that is the storm shelter budget that we're moving from last year to this year, and we added the additional amount. That's still to be determined if council approves a bid in the future. This next one just shows the park and rec fund by department. So sports complex, 825,000. That jumped from your first summary I sent you because I included the increased cost for the ice arena roof. And then you've got parks, park supervision, recreation aquatics, and rec center. This chart just really shows you how much of each of the funds projects are being moved forward from last year. So anything that's yellow represents a percentage of projects that are just carry forward from last year. The red would be new requests. So you can see community services about half and half, but that was repair items that we just found out about. General fund had some new items, as did EMS and the park fund. Wrong page, sorry. Okay, some of these supplements also have anticipated revenue tied to them. So even though we have $1.7 million of supplements for airport fund, there is $1.5 million that we're anticipating in receiving in grants for that cost. Campground fund, again, that's the storm shelter and then a sign we need to replace. And then we have $594,000 worth of revenue for that one. Community services is largely funded by DOT grants and insurance reimbursements that Jessica applies for. And then you can see 1.8 in the general fund. That's because the library received some grant funds last year. We also have some dedicated reserves being spent for the opioid settlement funds that the city received. PD will be doing a training, and then they also got a scanner that Dean could tell you more about if you're interested. And then we have the SRF proceeds for the storm drainage project. In the park fund, they did get some grant funds for playground equipment, and then we have SRF proceeds as well. This is just an outline of the supplements that were not recommended. Supplements that were not recommended were cut. I did approve or did recommend 99% of the requested supplements. The remaining 1% are not recommended in order to maintain sufficient cash balance in case the 2026 projects came in over budget, which they did with the ice arena roof. So here you can see what the requests were versus what's in the recommended. Basically, a lot of the requests made in the Park and Rec department were new requests, not just projects carrying forward. So those were cut out of the recommendation. So you can see up top, replacing skate aids, upgrading lighting in the racquetball courts. There's a full list there. It's also online. Those were cut in order to ensure there was going to be enough cash in the fund to cover the increased cost for the ice arena roof, if that makes sense. Okay, so this sheet just really shows every year when we get supplemental requests, I go through and look at how much revenue came in above anticipated budget and how much was remaining in the expenditure budgets. And I take that and weigh it against what the recommended supplements were to look at the difference. And we want those to be a positive number on the right, because that shows that we're not dipping into reserves to fund these supplements. A couple caveats on that, which I noted on my staff report as well. The Community Services Fund, we did anticipate they would be spending some money from reserves, and they are actually getting grant funds for a little over $11,000 of their supplements. So theirs is okay. Airport Fund, again, we're moving the runway project and the hangar project from 25 to 26, and those have grant funds associated with it. So we'll have revenue coming in 26 to offset that. And then the campground fund, and that will be money applied from reserves and a transfer in from general fund to cover the difference. I also go through and update our estimated cash balances. The first column here will show you which fund. The second column here shows what our beginning balance cash balances were in each of those funds. This does not include anything that's designated for a specific purpose. This is just undesignated cash balances. Then I went through and took off the supplements and any cash adjustments that need to be made to give you an updated cash balance. So this column here, the second column, shows you what I anticipate being in the fund at the end of the year if we spend 100% of our expenses and we receive 100% of the budgeted revenue. We're never exactly on that, so that'll vary, but this is the projection. And then I did add the estimated cash balances for those funds as well, if you're interested in looking at those. This is the designated reserves. The only supplements that are using designated reserves is, as I said earlier, the opioid funds. We are using it to do a training for police department staff, and I think maybe the region or just our staff. Oh yeah, the region as well. And then the purchase of that scanner that will help the department as well. The rest of these funds will remain untouched by supplements. So this right column is still on hand after the supplements are approved. This just shows you a list of our major projects. I really picked things that were $100,000 or more. We have several projects where things are ordered in 25 and they're not received until 26. So we have to move cash over to finish those projects. But these are the major projects that we're moving forward. So you can see the hangar. We've got the storm shelter that council will have to consider again later this year. We still had some entertainment tax expenses. We had streetscape improvements budgeted. Originally, we were planning on doing Spruce and the First and Burr intersection. I think we should still look at that Spruce intersection, but we might want to do some landscaping around the roundabout when it's done. And then you can see the general fund projects there. Lake Mitchell, I already mentioned the Lake Mitchell project. We have the playground and the park fund, sanitation, sewer fund. These are supplements. Now, these next two slides will show you supplements that are not projects that are being moved from 25 to 26. And as you look through the list, you'll see a majority of those are repair items or cost increases on budgeted projects. By doing them now out of budget funds that they didn't spend in 2025, it's really going to preserve our contingency so we don't have to tap into this year's contingency to cover those items. The reason why I think that's important is our sales tax is down this year, and I want to make sure that we're not spending that contingency so that if sales tax is low, we can offset that revenue with contingency funds. So many of these items are items that failed basically after the budget was over, or we received the grant funds, like library has one in here, I think here, yeah. I don't know if theirs is in here. Actually, it's not. Like they received grant funds in 2025, but we didn't get it supplemented in 25, so it would have been budgeted. I can answer any other questions. I did have to reduce down. Right now, the general fund is going to transfer to campground $110,000 to cover that difference because park fund now won't have enough in reserves. And that's assuming that the campground storm shelter comes in at the maximum budget that Joe showed at that last time you considered. If the project price comes down, that may not be needed anymore. And we would only transfer it based on whatever council approves during the bid award. And here's the ones in the park fund. We had some unexpected training we had to do for bucket truck. We had some repairs needed. The chemicals and the ejection equipment for the zebra mussels, Kevin had budgeted it in the golf fund, but forgot the 50% match in the park fund. So this will allow them to move forward with it this year. This fabricate and install vent hoods at the ice arena is supposed to help with some of the moisture issues that you were talking about, Mike. And then some utility cost increases. They also would like to move forward with this replacing the lighting in the south rink because it's going to be better to do it during the roof replacement than at a later date. And then before I showed them using $260,000 for the campground shelter, I had to move that down to $160 in order to fund the ice arena additional cost. Just for public's information too, I'll show the ordinance up here. This is the actual ordinance, and it shows, it's not as detailed. It just shows all of the total for each budget line. If anyone wants to see the line item detail, I did also include that in the agenda. Man. And that would be this sheet. This sheet will show you every single line. It will tell you how much was remaining in that budget line if it was moved forward and if there's offsetting revenue. And then you can also see the detail for the cash projections at the end of that report if you're interested. And again, this is the first reading. We'll have the second reading in consideration for adoption at the next meeting. However, if you would like me to make changes to what I have proposed, I would need to know that hopefully before the next reading. And I can answer any questions, or obviously department heads can also answer any questions that you have on their request as well.
I'll approve first reading.
Second.
Motion to approve first reading. Second by Mr. Goldhammer. Further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to enter into executive session according to SDCL 125-2, consulting with legal counsel and SDCL 1919-502, lawyer-client communications. We're moving 14 to afterwards. Yep.
So there will be action after.
There will be action afterwards. One final item. So looking for a motion. Mr. McCardle, second by Mr. Goldhammer. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. There will be one item afterwards. Don't wait around for however long we're going to be. We're going to wait for Mike. Where'd he go? See the bathroom? Okay, we're back. Number 14, action to approve water main extension to South Wastewater Treatment Facility Project 2026-41 to Menning Excavating, Inc.
All right, Mr. Mayor, Council. City staff has been working with Menning Excavating, Inc. on extending a water main to the South Wastewater Treatment Plant from our current ground storage tank area. Bid prices were utilized from the East 5th Avenue reconstruction project, which was bid on February 25th of this year and awarded at the March 16th council meeting. I've attached a map which shows the general location of the water line. And as I said, this is being extended to our new, or not new, but our improvements to the South Wastewater Treatment Plant where we need water service. Staff recommends council approval to award the water main extension to the South Wastewater Treatment Plant project to Menning Excavating, Inc. for $605,074.30. And I can answer any questions you have.
Thank you.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer.
Second.
Second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? You gotta give them. Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are adjourned.